In the spirit of respect, authenticity, and reconciliation, the town of Slave Lake honors and acknowledges that we are situated on the traditional lands of Sawridge First Nation within Treaty 8 territory, home to Indigenous, Métis, and Inuit peoples who have occupied these lands since time immemorial. Good evening, everyone. Councillor Ferguson,
Motion to adopt the agenda as presented.
motion on the floor. Any further discussion? Call the question, those in favor? And that is carried. Councillor Hughes,
Motion to accept the regular meeting minutes of September 5th as presented.
okay, motion on the floor. Any further discussion? Call the question, those in favor? And that is carried. All right, we have our delegation for the evening. Or Casey, if you want to come up, please. And if we can get his mic turned on too, great, thank you.
How's everyone doing?
Good, how are you?
Good, pretty good. So I guess I sent a report to yourself there, Ms. Mayor, a month or so ago. It's been a little bit to try to set up for me to come in, but I'm free to answer any questions. I can sum it up. I did a little bit at our town hall meeting a week or two ago, but I know our community is concerned with property crime. It is up 16% in town. It's down a whopping 40% in our municipal district, which is a very large rural area. So it's really a balancing act for me and the rest of the detachment to, where to put our members. So we wanted to do a lot more industrial and rural patrols because there was issues last year. We're doing a significant amount more. But it's just about moving people around. So good news when I go to the MD council meeting next week. There's going to be a significant drop there, but it is up slightly in town. So it's a balancing act. We're working on it. There's several proactive steps our members are taking. I mentioned during the town hall, we're going to be doing a lot more street checks, just talking to people walking around at really weird hours in the night. They did half a dozen last night. The good news with doing that is we can track then who's out and about, what they're wearing. So those are picked up significantly in the last month or two. Our GI unit just is getting their new constable this month. So I expect them to produce a lot more warrants under the Controlled Drugs and Substances Act, hopefully do some door kicks and execute some search warrants. But yeah, we're looking pretty good on our end for that. Again, so I'm free to answer any questions about the report there. A good positive note is persons crimes is down significantly, 34% in town, which is nice to see. So the only other thing I'll note is traffic offenses are down slightly. It could be because our provincial traffic members that are out of Westlock were seconded to help with the wildfires in the first quarter of this year, as were most of the traffic units in the province. So that's the only other note I can see from that end.
Councillor Hughes?
So when you were mentioning that the crime is down 40% in the MD area, and you're just contributing that solely to an increase in you guys doing more driving around the industrial area, what's the reasoning there? Well,
when I've met with the MD, we've had discussions about securing businesses, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
And I don't know if they've taken it to heart, but that's a two-pronged approach. So we're doing that as well as ramping up patrols in those areas.
Okay.
I know there were some issues at the empty landfill. We were out there fairly often. We arrested a couple of people there in the last few weeks. So it's just a combination of proactive steps and us actually being out there at weird hours of the night. So
weird hours of the night. Okay. Okay. I couldn't help but notice today on social media, there was a lot of commentary about vehicle crimes, a lot of vehicle theft things happening the last couple nights from the sounds of just what I'm seeing. Any comment or notice to residents on anything? Is there a particular thing you've been noticing with vehicle theft or?
So I get a report of all the files that were generated throughout the night every morning when I come in.
Yeah.
I didn't see that last couple of nights. Having said that, I did see the members last night did, I think 6 or 7 street checks. So there were a lot of suspicious people out at weird hours of the night. So if that's happening, people need to call us and make files.
Yeah.
So we know where it's happening. This is I've implemented this year is to hotspots. So we need to kind of map that. So we know where to prioritize our patrols.
Yeah.
And if no one's calling and reporting their, purse or whatever was stolen from their vehicle, we have no idea, right? So.
Right. Well, and that was kind of the overarching thing that I took away from the town hall was just you saying the more residents call in and complain about these things, the more you can actually schedule officers where they're needed. And you guys, can do a better job that way too. So.
Yeah, a
Yeah.
popular thing, you sometimes hear is, well, what's the point of calling? What are they gonna do? Well, even, the whole point of that is like we just said, it'll create a file. We can map exactly where it is. Perhaps we've done a street check stopping someone in that area that night. We can go back and look at, right? And we may find that person a week or two down the line with stuff from that vehicle on them. So we need to have that reported.
Okay, thanks. Thank you.
Casey, now might be a good time just to remind or maybe speak a little bit about your RCMP app and reporting of those, non-urgent crimes, like it kind of dovetailed into what you're talking about, but there's a multiple ways that people can do it. Maybe you have a couple of minutes to maybe speak about that sort of program or that option or that app that people could utilize.
Yeah, sure. I know I mentioned a little bit during the town hall, but you can report crimes online now. So you don't actually have to physically come down, take time out of your day to do that. So if, for instance, something happened where an item was taken out of your vehicle, you can just report that online. That'll go directly to our tracking system and we can access it anywhere in Canada. So that's our stats will be built off of that. So there is an RCMP app now on the App Store. That's one way to do it. There is a website. If you just Google Report a Crime Alberta, that'll come up there as well. You can still come in our detachment Monday to Friday, 8 to 4:30 to report that. I'm not sure if the 3045 number that'll go to our dispatch center at Edmonton after hours. And what that'll happen, generally, if that's in the middle of the night, they may wait till the morning to dispatch to a member if it's non-urgent. If it's just a suspicious person, nothing actually happened. They may actually just kind of hold that for us to look at until the morning, but the actual crime, so you wake up the next day, something was taken out of your vehicle, you can just go to the website and report that rather than coming in. So.
Councilor Ferguson.
I do have some comments more along the financial side. So looking at page 8 out of 10 of your report. So I guess in an ideal world, we would never have overtime, but I understand, sometimes circumstances dictate otherwise. I'm just wondering, what is usually the premise of why we have overtime? Is it because of vacancies? Is it just, is that typically the reason why?
So overtime will generally be for, say there's 3 people working tonight, 2 of them are sick. Well, we're not going to leave someone in a town of this size policing the town by themselves, right? So we'll generally call in someone to work with them at night or during the day. The other options usually for overtime will be, say there's a certain project going around, like we had some break-ins to some businesses in town a month or so ago. We paid some overtime to have extra bodies out there around the clock and in specific areas around town. So little things like that. If we're executing like a larger search warrant, things like that, sometimes we'll call an extra body in if we know they could have weapons or something in the residence. That's typically what we would use overtime here for.
Okay, so the overtime isn't being generated due to the vacancies, I guess, or is because it looks like we were short a person or 2.
So we're
Filled positions, sorry.
Yeah, so the staff sergeant position has been vacant for about a year and a half. And we're down 1 constable position. So we're actually doing pretty good compared to other detachments I talk to on a regular basis, really well. But like I said, in an instance where there's a couple people on, half of them are sick, we may call a member into on overtime.
Okay, I guess the reason why I was asking, because I think according to the report here, we pick up 100% of the overtime costs instead of it being at a proration of 70%. Is that correct?
I'm not sure how the overtime billing works. I know we have two billing processes, one to the town, one to the province. So anything that happens in the municipal district, we bill to the province. that account. And anything that's in town is with the town account. So I don't know if that helps at all, but say there's a big event that's happening in Smith or a big, horrible incident in Smith where we had to call a lot of members in on overtime, that gets billed to the provincial account.
Thank you.
I check because I sign off on the overtime and I make sure it matches up with the address. So.
Further questions? Okay, well, thank you for coming out. Really appreciate it.
No worries. Have a good rest of the meeting.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Not sticking around for all the action. I missed Julie already. She's never here.
Okay, since there's no business arising from delegations, we'll move forward. Lori, you're up with our amendment to the land use bylaw.
All right, your worship and members of council, the purpose of this report is for council to give bylaw 19/2023 first reading and schedule the required public hearing. Typically, we don't have discussion on first reading. However, this is administration's application coming forward, so we can have some discussion. Would you like me to go through the report?
Councillors?
Yes? Okay, so administration is bringing the bylaw forward in an effort to streamline the development approval process for developments that cannot be effectively accommodated under other land use bylaw districts because of unique land use characteristics, necessity for innovative ideas, or unusual site constraints. So I'll give you, just go through the report is a brief explanation of the bylaw. So the bylaws on, I don't have the numbers in the agenda package, sorry, but the bylaw is attached. The first section in the bylaw removes the existing definition for shelter. The second amendment in the bylaw adds new definitions for shelter permanent and shelter temporary. So shelter permanent is a development providing emergency overnight accommodation that may include kitchen and dining facilities, showers and bathrooms, relaxation areas and laundry facilities, and may also include daytime drop-in services and therefore may operate 24 hours per day. Accommodation and offices for resident staff may be incorporated as an accessory use. And a permanent shelter may only be approved in the council direct control district. The definition for shelter temporary is fairly similar with a few exceptions. It means a development providing emergency overnight accommodation that may include kitchen and dining facilities, showers and bathroom relaxation areas and laundry facilities, and may also include daytime drop-in services and as well can operate 24 hours per day. Offices for resident staff only may be incorporated as an accessory use. And a temporary shelter may only operate for a period of 6 consecutive months. And once the approval expires, 6 consecutive months must elapse before temporary shelter can be applied for on the same site. So those are the definitions for those. Shelters temporary offers the same services, as I said, under section 3 of the bylaw, we remove shelter as a use from the old definition comes out as a use in the C2 district and the institutional district. Section 4 adds shelter temporary as a discretionary use to the institutional district only. And you will note that shelter permanent's not listed as a use, and that's because the CDC Council Direct Control does not have a list of uses. So that's why we had to include in the definition for shelter permanent that they are only permitted in the CDC district. Section 5 of the amending bylaw contains all of the redistricting elements as it amends the land use district map of the land use bylaw and is attached as Schedule A to the bylaw. So the sites that are being rezoned to CDC Council Direct Control are Lot 1, Block 1, Plan 2120278, which is on 7th Street Northeast, adjacent to the Recycle Center. Part of Lot 4, Block 3, Plan 9123753, which is 3056 Ave Southwest, which is part of the MRC site. Lot 7 and 8, Block 8, Plan 1915 HW, which is 213 3rd Ave Northeast, which is the old medical clinic building. And the last one is part of Lot 1, Plan 9923252 at 901 Caribou Trail Northwest, which is part of the existing fire hall site. A notice of the required public hearing will be advertised on the town's webpage and social media platforms for a period of 2 weeks. It will actually be 3 weeks. In addition, referral letters will be sent to adjacent property owners and landowners with respect to the land use district map amendments. At this time, administration has no concerns with the application and recommends council give bylaw 19 first reading and schedule the required public hearing for October 3rd, 2023.
Counselor Mwallam,
I'll make a motion to move the bylaw 19-2023 to amend section 388 subsection 3 and 110 subsection 3. And the land use district map of the land use bylaw number 22-2007 by redistricting as follows. Lot 12, block 1, plan 2120278 from BI Business Industrial District and Institutional District to CDC, Council Direct Control District. Part of Lot 4, Block 3, Plan 9123753 from Institutional District to CDC, Council Direct Control District, Lot 7 and 8, Block 8, Plan 1915 HW from C1 Downtown Commercial Mixed Use District to CDC, Council Direct Control District, and part of Lot 1, Plan 9923252 from Institutional District to CDC, Council Direct Control District, receives first reading and the required public hearing be scheduled for October 3rd, 2023.
okay,
It's a long one.
discussion. It's between you and
Steve goes
Counselor.
first. He had his hand up.
Okay,
All right. One for us. I guess one of the things I'm wondering about are, I got a number of questions, but why are we not allowing shelter permanent in zones other than the CDC?
Shelter permanent, we felt that in order to give the municipalities or shelters, people applying for shelters, the best opportunity to provide the service, that if we put it in a council direct control, that it eliminates the appeal. And allows the municipality to make the decision with respect to where that shelter should go and whether they feel it's an appropriate amenity in the area that's being proposed.
I understand having the ability to have that in a CDC and having a use defined is fine. But why take it away from an institutional zone or a C2 zone, depending on what or where it is? It may not need to go through a CDC zone property. By taking it and sticking it only in CDC, if something's already zoned C1, we now have to go through a rezoning procedure in order to get it.
Yeah, that's correct. You'd have to remove the, all the lots we're looking at, or most of them are institutional, but it would be, if you wanted to take the CDC designation off, you'd have to amend the bylaw to allow it. But the reason.
And even the other way around. I mean, if someone wanted to put a shelter in wherever,
If
because
they
it
were,
kind of rolls into the same idea. I think personally, the definition of shelter in the original bylaw was meant to be used during the day. Plus it had night features. That's how I think it was, but be that as may, we're clearing it up and making it whatever, but
Very
why are we
clear, yeah.
taking it away from a C2 zone? Or from an institutional zone when we had it there before and we haven't even fully reviewed our C2 yet?
temporary shelters are going to be allowed to continue, which is what has been applied for and issued in the institutional zone. So that's not changing. What we're proposing is if the shelter is going to be permanent. So it's not going to operate for 6 months and then be gone for 6 months. If the shelter is going to go there and it's going to be there for 2, 3, 5 years, we're going to put it in the CDC zone so that council can make the decision about whether or not that location is appropriate for the amenity that they're trying and the service they're trying to provide. And it's the only one, not for shelters temporary. So all the shelters previous to this have only been temporary shelters. They have.
That's
no-
because that's what's been asked for, not that what necessarily, why they applied for temporary. I still don't understand. I would have had that permanent over at the church if it was me, but
Yeah,
anyhow.
anyway, that's the intent
That
of
as it
the
may,
amendment.
I still don't understand why we're limiting that choice when what's wrong with having it in a C2 and it going through the NPC and the SDAB in a proper process?
I think we're speeding up a process because we're making people go through a process that's probably going to be a no anyway. So we're going to give them 4 options right now, 5 if you count another one that's already zoned that way, where we could consult and get to the final resting place for this building. So we could say, oh, I wish everyone accepted this and it should be this zone. We all know it's not going to pass in that zone. So we're just wasting the time and wasting the process of everybody to do it. So like, I don't know what spot you're thinking of that's not in here that we want to make people go through the rigmarole to get done.
Counter that one. My thought is not for specific use here. My thought is a bylaw that's gonna last for 50 years. My thought is our plan for the future of this town. I don't, to take one situation and make a bylaw accordingly isn't right. We need to look at this, what we're doing and how this plan is gonna affect the town as a whole for the long term. Are we always going to go through it, no matter what shelter we're doing or whatever the case may be, if we end up with 2 or 3 of them? I don't know. Well, I don't know. So are we going to then redistrict everything to CDC?
What we're basically saying with this amendment is if it's a permanent shelter, you would have to either have to find a piece of property that already has CDC zoning, or you would have to go through the process of rezoning it to CDC so that you could apply. That's what we're saying.
I know
And it
that's what
puts,
you're saying.
rather than the decision going to the NPC for the permit, it comes to council. So that the permitting process doesn't change. It still has to go through a body, a development authority, a body to approve it. It just means council approves it instead of the municipal planning commission.
What is the point of the municipal planning?
Is to approve discretionary use and variance permits. But there are some examples and some developments where it is appropriate for it to go before council, where there's extenuating circumstances or the use is difficult to fit into an area. And in some instances, and maybe the shelter is one of the, well, it is one of those instances. Where it's absolutely correct that the NIMBY response to these is always there. I think I've seen maybe one shelter in 25 years go in this community without an appeal. And I think, you know, a council should be able to plan in the community for locations where they know they need the service and where they think it's appropriate to go without being frustrated all the time by refusals, the NIMBY response and the appeal process. And that's what this does. It gives the council the ability to long range plan in that way for uses that are difficult to place into other districts.
Okay, now I'll keep going. So then for shelter temporary that we have, we know that temporary, I guess in an ideal world is 1 year, but as we've learned in the last, as you said, 15 years, temporary is not always temporary for 6 months chunks. To put that limit where we have 6 months only, and then you gotta have 6 months off, our winter season's not always 6 months. So for those events, are we not handcuffing ourselves by putting that 6 month moratorium?
6 months would give you from the beginning of October to the end of May, which typically is,
We never want to worry about in between.
well, I mean, and there's
I'm just
flexibility in the definition there. If you want to extend that to 7 months or
'Cause we've had
reduce it
times-
to 5 months, that's fine. It was just, that was tailored to what we typically see. We typically see, well, actually, older applications for shelters were usually 5 months and sometimes even 4. So this 6 months picks up that window of when it starts to get cold, which is beginning of October all the way to the end of May, which is a pretty big window, and it assures that our homeless have somewhere warm when the weather is inclement. So that was the thought behind that.
All right, there's a motion on the floor. Is there any further discussion?
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor and Council. The purpose of this report is to present engagement results on the current business, on current business gaps within the town of Slave Lake and identified priorities and barriers for economic development moving forward. These results will be used to inform the Economic Development Action Plan and the objectives contained within. I will be providing an update on that plan to Council next week. I'll direct Council to the PowerPoint presentation that's appended to this report. It's just a couple pages down. The first, the first slide you should see is methodology and data limitations. So the following results build upon the research findings survey completed in Q1 2020 and the business activity online survey launched on January 13th, 2021 and closed on February 4th, 2021. Both were conducted by Insight, a consultant out of Edmonton. The research findings survey consisted of 20 stakeholder interviews across industries, professions, elected officials, etc. The online survey was disseminated to 433 organizations and intended to capture the current state of local business climate and identify commodity flows, business activities, gaps, opportunities, and potential business trajectories for economic development. The survey consisted of 70 questions with 149 respondents, either partially or fully completing the survey, providing a 34% response rate, representing a small sample size. The latest surveys were launched on June 13th, 2023 on Engage Slave Lake as part of Economic Development Week activities and garnered significantly fewer responses, with only 12 for business gaps and a handful for economic development priorities moving forward. Results from EngageSlaveLake.ca clearly indicate that response rates increase for topics that either directly impact residents or are a source of significant debate among residents. Some examples we've used before: extending school zone hours, speed limit reduction, budget 2023, the town welcome signs, all gathering 100, if not more than 125 responses, and decrease significantly for engagement projects looking for general feedback on town priorities moving forward. Some examples being the economic development priorities, the business gap analysis, and the communication survey. Moving forward, EngageSlaveLake.ca should focus on topics that either directly impact residents or are a source of significant debate among residents to ensure that enough results are collected to inform decision-making. Upcoming engagement projects for EngageSlaveLake.ca include Budget 2024 and short-term rental regulations. Next page, we'll get into the results. So the first questions was, what type of business do you believe should be brought to the town or region? You can see across the results, they were all pretty flat. But the number one being tourism operators and restaurants. The theme of tourism operations and increasing tourism and its infrastructure is a common theme among results. Others, and then it flatlined with manufacturing and its supply chain, retailers and entertainment services, and oil and gas in the supply chain. Once again, these results are primarily driven by the business activity surveys with Engage Slave Lake added on top. As you can see, results are evenly distributed across the categories. Anecdotal evidence. So obviously the communications department scans the Facebook community pages on a daily basis. And the topic of, new businesses comes to town does pop up on social media quite regularly. So anecdotally, we didn't formalize those results, but we did take a look at them, and results indicated that residents wanted to see additional restaurants, clothing retailers, particularly for kids, and entertainment services for youth. Any questions on that slide? We'll move to the next, if none. Nope. Okay. The next question was, what types of business supports do you see as being most valuable or needed? So remember, in our business activity survey, this was sent to over 400 organizations, of which a vast majority were businesses. So some of the common themes were promoting existing businesses and encouraging local procurement, the improvement of road conditions and accessibility, tax breaks, education for existing businesses, working with local businesses to open, addition of manufacturing capabilities, increased mental health supports, and reduction in red tape in planning and development. So what these results are seeing is a lot of the businesses out there are looking for business development support, for which the town of Slave Lake can provide a role, but would need to partner with Community Futures, as that's more a business development organization. Any questions on that one? Nope. Okay. Next slide. Excuse me. What do you think are the top opportunities for Slave Lake and region in the next 1 to 3 years? When it comes to economic development, here we see a clear number one winner in increasing tourism and its infrastructure. So obviously results clearly indicate that residents and businesses think the greatest opportunity for economic development for the town moving forward is increasing tourism and its infrastructure. And then once again, the rest of the responses are kind of flat, but attracting new businesses and supporting innovation were number 2 and 3. Moving on to the next, what do you think are the biggest challenges around economic development that the town and region is currently facing? Once again, we see that tourism theme, undeveloped tourism opportunities and lake access. Planning and development, there seems to be some perceived inconsistencies in bylaws and process. Reliance on the resource extraction economy and the cyclical nature, the boom and bust economy that comes with that. Inflationary pressures, utilities, municipal taxes, the cost of housing, climate change, highway and road conditions, and labor recruitment and retention, and access to qualified labor. So some of the things that the town is doing to address some of these concerns are obviously with labor recruitment and retention. We're working on the rural renewal stream with over 30 letters of endorsement issued to date for local businesses. For the cost of housing, the Economic Development and Planning Department just submitted our application to the Housing Accelerator Fund. We should get an answer from the government on that fund sometime in the fall, but in that application was a total of $2.5 million for increasing housing and associated infrastructure. There's not too many constraints around that funding. As in with highway and road conditions, we have yourselves advocating on the town's behalf to the province. And climate change, we're still kind of working on a bit. We haven't really touched that one yet. Climate change did come up in some of the later results as well, actually. Which we'll move on if there's no questions. Okay. So these results kind of display what residents think the town's role should be in economic development. And once again, the response rates were very low for this. But once again, we do see some common themes. So working with developers at all costs to bring new development to our community. If there's more affordable housing, it will be easier for people to move here. If the homelessness and crime are dealt with, it will also be more appealing for people to stay here. Streamline or make it easier to start a new business or housing development. And there was also a climate change one too. Assess and charge for more for environmentally damaging industries and give incentives to those businesses that adopt more environmentally sound practices and equipment. Another question asked was, what do you think needs to change or happen to attract more businesses to Slave Lake in the region? Once again, more affordable housing comes up. Business development comes up with being more accommodating to signs or other needs that other needs that businesses identify to make people aware of their business. Seek out and work with new developers to come to acceptable terms with new builds. I think our recent agreement with Fournier Place, it speaks to that. And continuing with local celebrations, festivals, and events, as that generally brings visitors to our region. What do you think needs to change or happen to drive population growth? Doctors and healthcare was a serious concern, so making it harder for doctors to live in cities south of Athabasca. Once again, more housing, more adaptive strategies for climate change, cost of living adjustments, more availability of housing. Once again, we're seeing the same themes over and over. Seeking out new industrial opportunities to drive more jobs by working with the MD of Lesser Slave River. We are working on that right now. The industrial land survey is underway in partnership with the MD, with results expected somewhere near the end of October. Some additional barriers identified include, once again, cost of living, hospital and healthcare, insufficient programming activities and options for youth, lack of promotion in markets, and quality of educational offerings. A suggestion was made by a resident to opt to, which I've actually never heard of, is offer discount incentives at town recreation facilities for community volunteers. So he actually was suggesting coming up with a system of if a resident volunteers for a committee or any kind of community event, that they would be entitled to some kind of discount. Something I'd never heard of, but something to consider. And then talking about specifically to tourism. So recognizing that the town of Slave Lake does not own and does not control any waterfront property besides Big Fish Bay, what do you think needs to change or happen in the region to drive an increase in visitors and tourists? So obviously throughout these results, we're seeing that increasing tourism and infrastructure seems to be the biggest opportunity identified. So some folks said we need more information about Big Fish Bay. They don't particularly feel welcome there. Work more with the provincial park and private recreation areas to promote the community and area. More festivals, beach days, activities on the beach. I think our work with the Slave Lake Tourism Society works with that, and I know they advocate on our behalf, and Alberta Parks is part of that society as well, or as part of that board. More to waterfront activities, advertise our beautiful beach in the region. As you know, the town of Slave Lake just completed a digital marketing campaign that just wrapped up. Once again, results will be presented in the next few weeks. And more development along Lesser Slave River and west towards Widewater, as well as continuing to grow the agreement with the MD and the province to develop opportunities along the beach. And that is it. Any questions, comments? Yes.
thank you for the report. It was great. There's honestly nothing on there that's really very surprising to me. And I'm happy to say that I do feel like we actually are working on several of these points, which is awesome. I am kind of happy to hear about the local interest in tourism. That's very resounding throughout the report. And I will just say that everything that's here has certainly been identified, by the Tourism Society's board as well. And in working on their strategic priorities and kind of the grounds that they've been able to cover this last year and a half, I would say that, identifying the tourism operators, businesses needed, that is not very far behind. So we are making some headway there, which is really exciting to hear. I love, some of the other ideas in here as well, outside of tourism. I actually really love the idea of a volunteer incentive in some way. That could be something interesting that might be worth looking into. But all in all, I thought the report was really great. Again, nothing really blowing me away. I think it's all things that we kind of had already previously identified. I do wish that we did have a better engagement level for it, though. I don't know what we could do differently with that.
Yeah.
Any thoughts there?
Yeah, unfortunately, our Engaged Slave Lake subscribers still sit at 275 and are pretty flat right now. I
Right.
suspect with the upcoming budget deliberations and whatever engagement comes of that, we'll probably spur some additional subscriptions or memberships. But yeah, I'm having a difficult time attracting that as well.
Yeah, I can imagine. That's continues to be challenging, but I am obviously very happy to see residents' interest in tourism and looking forward to continue working with that and working with the town of Slave Lake and the MD on that as well. So thank you, Jason.
Councillor Moellem.
This is a general question. When it comes to economic development, specifically working with developers, are we paying attention to what other communities kind of around us are doing?
In terms of kind of attraction or incentives?
Well, it
or-
could be, yeah, like incentives are we more able to work with them now than we used to be? Are we less? Are other communities doing something that like really different and, maybe something we should be paying attention to?
I think our planning department is constantly monitoring, trends, but a lot of the processes are similar, right? There are development permits, there's inspections, there's fees that are collected. Those processes are pretty uniform across different municipalities.
And we
you
had
know-
the fee rate review that came back prior to your term starting, that we looked at all the fees of development permits across multiple municipalities, correct? Am I
Correct,
remember that
yeah.
correctly?
And we're by no means like excessively high. We're right in the middle or right in the range there. I think where you sometimes see maybe a difference in product happens to me sometimes in the mechanisms that someone could maybe file for a permit. Sometimes there's online processes and, we're moving, as you're aware, through our ERP process to modernize that, some of that aspect, which may improve some of those response times or a little bit, or improve some of those steps as it goes. But overall, a lot of the same principles are the same principles from municipality to municipality. You buy a house, you do a development, you need to pull permits, you need to have inspections, you need to have, that process, those processes are pretty common across. So, we're always open to new ideas. And if it's heavily regulated, you're working within legislation. So there's only so much wiggle room as to what you can do that's new and innovative as it relates to a department that's heavily regulated.
Councillor Graham,
Motion to accept this report as information.
any further discussion? Call to question, those in favor? And that is carried. Your turn, Chris.
Good evening, Your Worship, members of council. The purpose of this report is to provide a recommendation to council for awarding the construction contract for Caribou Trail Low Pressure System, phase 1 of the sewer expansion project. The sewer expansion project was approved by council in 2023 capital budget. Administration has planned to complete the project over 2 phases. Phase 1 of the project, also known as Caribou Trail Low Pressure System, includes sewer main expansion along industrial lots west of Portneuf Place. Earlier this year, administration started working with the consultant on the engineering design of the project with the intention to complete construction by end of 2023 construction season. The scope calls for installation of low pressure sewer main, including installation of service steps up to property line along the industrial lots. Approved capital budget of 600,000 was provided to complete the phase 1 in 2023. The construction opportunity was posted on Alberta Purchasing Connection on 18th of August, and it was closed on September 7th. Upon closing, 5 compliant and 1 non-compliant submission was received. Town administration also carried a cash allowance of $150,000 to allow any extra work beyond property line, for instance, to cover costs installing line beyond property line, tying to holding tanks, etc. It would be up to council to approve any such work beyond the road right of way. The basis of our bid evaluation was 40% on proposed price, 30% on past performance similar project, 10% on proposed schedule, and 20% on key team members. Upon bid review, it was verified the lowest bidder's submission was non-compliant. The proposal also lacked requested information as per RFQ document. An evaluation was completed based on the information provided. Based on our evaluation, Elite Site Services scored maximum points amongst all the bidders and is recommended for contract award. Elite Site Services has completed various underground construction and rehabilitation project with a comparable size and scope to proposed Caribou Trail low pressure system project within last few years, located throughout Alberta. Elite Site Services also has the capacity to complete the scope of work defined in the RFQ document. They propose to complete phase 1 with start date of late September and completion by end of October this year. Council has following options. They can proceed with the recommended contractor for proposed project work within road right of way, or they can propose with recommended contractor for proposed work and also include the additional work beyond road right of way utilizing 150,000 of cash allowance, which is an estimate based on 13 lots. Resources impact, our anticipated project cost is $514,850, which is the lowest or the recommended bid. Construction contingency of 10%, engineering service cost of $30,000, and total anticipated project cost of $600,000. And the project, the capital budget of $600,000 was already approved by council in phase 1, 2023. For communication, and notification letter was provided to industrial lots included in phase 1, notifying of the project scope with rough timelines early this year. Once the contract is awarded, a notification letter will also be sent out notifying of construction timelines and other details necessary to the lot owners. Administration is recommending council to award the construction contract for phase 1 of sewer expansion project, also known as Caribou Trail low pressure system, to Elite Site Services.
Yeah, you have your hand up.
Yeah, I just want to bring to council's attention, also attached to your package, there is a letter that was received from one of the contractors, Paul Andrews. I can read it. If not, if you haven't had a chance to review it, it's just in regards to this item tonight for your consideration. If you'd like me to read it, I can, or if you've all had a chance to read it ahead of time.
We've all reviewed
good.
it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Councilor Hughes.
Thank you for the report, Kush. I will make a motion. I have no further commentary. I move that council awards construction contract for Caribou Trail low pressure system to Elite Site Services in the amount of $514,850. Sorry, I said that weird. Before cash allowance and GST.
Okay, there's a motion on the floor. Any further discussion? Councilor Ferguson.
So just a quick comment here. I've been clear since this was debated in our capital budget that I was not in support of this project for numerous reasons. I'm not going to rehash those arguments tonight, but in that principle, I do not support awarding this contract to anyone. So therefore, I will be voting against awarding it.
Councilor Adams.
Once again, along the same lines as Bryce, the same thing, and I will rehash a little bit, even though you don't want me to. This has a significant impact on our tax base. By having this increase, I was just doing a quick calc on what it's gonna cost for me for my house. And it's gonna cost me $750. That's for the year. It's crazy that we're moving on with something that benefits so few at the cost of so many.
Counselor Grammer.
But it's coming from reserve, so it actually won't cost you that.
How do
You might have paid it,
refund
you might have
reserves,
paid it in
dude?
the past.
Let
I'm not
Counselor
sorry.
Grammer
I
finish,
It's
please.
okay. You might have paid it in the past, but you're not currently paying it for that addition. Now go.
Sorry, I apologize for that, John.
It's okay.
We still have to replace those funds because we never allocated those reserves for building sewer lines. They're meant for maintenance of sewer lines. So not only are we having to replace the funds that we're taking out of there that are meant for refurbishing the sewer lines we have, we should be adding more because we have to now maintain this one. So it actually, we're increasing it even more than just the actual cost.
I'm gonna chime in. I will. So I am on the opposite view of this. I believe that sewer is a basic utility. Although it was clear that it was not unanimous, this was passed in capital budgeting earlier in the year. And I can appreciate the opposing perspective that, but council has passed this to rectify a decade-old problem and improve our services to business. Furthermore, we have updated our water and utility bylaws to reflect our current usage and the services provided. I firmly believe that access to water and sewer are not a luxury or a nice to have in a modern community. Our utility reserve is healthy, one of the reserves that actually is, and we have the opportunity to make a difference in our town at the current cost levels. Businesses along these areas have repeatedly advocated for this basic service. Again, and I feel it is a fully basic service. So right now, we're looking at a contract award on an already approved capital budget item, not the validity of the project in general. And as it had, you actually came under budget. So I am in full support of this. Is there any further discussion? We have a motion on the floor, call to question those in favor. Those opposed? And that is carried. Thanks, Krish. Oh, you're still here.
Yeah.
Don't go anywhere. You have the next one up for us.
The purpose of this report is to provide update to council on 2023 capital projects. So administration work on multiple capital projects this year. The highlight of this year's project includes opening of new splash park to public, revitalization of walkway along business front between 3rd Ave and 4th Ave along Main Street, completion of paving and sidewalk replacement on 3rd Street Southwest, installation of new playground structure in Hill Park, completing resurfacing of tennis courts, installation of new pump track in Barton Park, installation of fast EV charger at MRC, installation of new highway entrance signs, etc. The site work for projects that are currently progressing will continue until end of October. Further update will be provided to council in November once most of the project are wrapped up for the season. And then I'll just quickly go over individual projects. So starting with highway entrance signs, it was budgeted 110,000. Actual to dates is 102. The project is substantially complete on time within budget. All 3 entrance signs are upgraded to modern illuminated sign design. The only deficiency left is to activate power by the sign near Highway 2 and Gloryland approach. We are currently further working with ATCO Electric to find a solution. And I would also request council to ask questions as I go project by project.
Yeah, that will work. Thank you.
Next is 3rd Street Southwest, a road rehabilitation project, budgeted 3.315 million. Actual to date is 2.87 million. All the scope of the project work is fully complete. The project was complete on time and within allotted budget. Administration identified the majority of the existing road structure under the old asphalt was in good condition, using proof roll techniques, and that test supported the decision to reuse majority of the base structure, saving additional material and time, bringing the overall project under budget by approx 400,000. Sidewalk rehab. So the project is almost complete. Only a couple of identified sections are left. The project is anticipated to be complete by end of September. 95% is complete. Next, downtown revitalization. I'm gonna talk a little more on downtown revitalization. So as of August 2023, we have completed majority of the scope, which included trail connection to Big Fish Bay, surface work for both the plaza west of Main Street, surface work for East Walkway, installation of kiosk. The only scope left is to complete installation of site furniture and art feature as identified in conceptual plan. The town administration would like to propose a couple of renderings to council, which are attached in attachment 2. Earlier this year, a request for design input was put out seeking ideas and comments. Upon closing, one submission was received from Slave Lake Regional Art Council providing ideas and suggestion. Since then, town administration has been working with a consultant to finalize the renderings. The design calls for sign to be placed on a concrete pony wall. The face of the concrete pony wall facing the plaza will showcase the shoreline of our Sandy Beach. Also included is Slave Lake box letters to incorporate modern trend and point of attraction to take pictures while visiting. Design elements also includes vertical art panel to incorporate some nature and limited theme. Also incorporated is indigenous syllabics in the art piece, translating to working together for our people. The inspiration was taken from our mission statement, which speaks working together, building a better community. Consultation was done with indigenous language expert to help us with translation to incorporate indigenous syllabics in the art piece. So to date, okay, we can go over the options. So created 2 options. So first option is with the beach shoreline is basically a custom high pressure laminate. And it is in colored version. And option 2 is it's in a more black and white version.
Those are very nice, by the way, in the attachments. Those are beautiful.
Thank
I
you.
also really like the addition of the indigenous language writing that speaks to our mission statement. Just wanted to say how nice they look.
Thank you. So I would like some council feedback on which would they prefer to see a color kind of like beach line, or would they prefer to see a black and white kind of like beach line?
I personally, I like the color. I think it stands out. It also helped with I think the colors of the downtown and revitalizing, but it does stand out. I really like the work that they've done here with both of them.
Councilor Ferguson?
I've noticed there's both of them, there's the wolf howling. What's that connected to? Like, is that on a pole? Because I see the other ones are on top of the ones on top of the statue.
Oh, so basically those are 4 sides of a kind of like a square post, right? So they're just showing all sides.
Okay.
So
Okay.
the post is on the end there, and then it has 1, 2, 3, 4. So each of them are a different panel on that square.
Okay,
They just have it laid out so that you can see all
That
the
makes-
sides of it.
that makes a little more sense.
Makes a little more sense. And then you have the ability, because the post is only on the one side, right?
Yeah.
Then you have the ability, like in other communities where you can stand beside, like behind their logo or whatever, where there's a few municipalities that have their name like
Right.
that. So if you're looking for like photo opportunities, that is, I think, what this has been designed for, so that you are able to stand there and then take the photo op on Main Street.
Mhm.
Because one of the, I think the things that we were looking for was that we wanted it to be a photographable, just like the
Yes,
murals
yes.
are.
Yes.
So that you could kind of have that tour throughout the downtown core. Councilor Grantland.
Kush, I don't know if you were able to do it, but you were mentioning at one point about the northern lights being they're changing with the LED. Were we able to get
So
that?
we were not able to get like the dancing one, but it will light up for sure.
Okay,
Yeah.
and then I just wanted to ask your opinion on wear and tear, which is better, the color or the black and white?
The color would stand out if it starts to fade away.
Yeah.
Rather black and white would be more like, it won't stand out, like it's just 2 colors, right?
And
So
it should last longer?
I mean, like color would fade. Yeah, I would say the degree of fading would be the same because it's the same material, just different colors, but color fading would stand out, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
totally. That's what I was thinking. It looks beautiful, but I
Mhm.
think it's gonna fade quicker than black and white. So I don't know if you were done, Bryce, tonight, but I was summoned, but
So you're looking for a decision like right now on which one we prefer.
Yeah, yes, if we can, then so that we can start our fabrication process, right?
I don't know if I care for the cartoon fisherman in there, to be honest with you, but
So that was one of the suggestion that came from Regional Art Council was to include something with relate to fish, because they proposed going with the idea of because Slave Lake is also considered as a fishing capital of Alberta, which is a tourism tagline. But we were able to have a conversation with them, and we said that, there is not just fishing, but there is other elements that needs to be incorporated, right? So just from that perspective, we included fishing, but if
It just kind of seems like first thoughts that it doesn't kind of flow with the theme. 'cause it's
originally we only had our shoreline, right? There was
Yeah, it's
nothing.
all
in there,
nature,
right?
nature, and then you see
Yeah.
this boat and this angler there. I don't know if it fits with the theme that we have going on. That's my 2 cents anyways.
Well, oh, Counselor Adams.
I was thinking the same thing. This is something I would like to have seen on Engage Slave Lake, to be honest, rather than trying to make a decision right now. But why are we so under the gun, or what are we trying to beat? here?
Just so that, because if you need this sign up before end of this year, then, we can start the fabrication process. Will take at least 4 weeks to get the sign built, 4 to 6 weeks. And then we can, do an opening or whatever, grand opening or ribbon cutting or something like that, right? Before snow hits the ground.
Counselor Gramlich.
Just want to comment and defend administration or Kush. I think Engage Slave Lake's an all right tool, but 100 people are going to vote. And I think Kush did the engagement of Arts Council and Indigenous artists, like he reached out. I just don't.
There was a call out to the community.
Yeah,
they called
there
out
was a
for
call out,
input.
right? Yeah.
So I think admin has done their part on the engaging Slave Lake without the
Right.
app.
I would agree with that as well, that there was the.
Opportunity
request out-
given, right?
Request out
Yes.
to the community for design, as well as our local, Slave Lake Regional Arts Council as well, so I would agree with
I
that,
could play in Stephen Bryce's field of,
removing the.
I don't
fishermen.
care about it. But if we're on a time constraint, like I'm not gonna die on the hill, but I see what they're saying.
Counselor Hughes, weigh in.
Yes. So many thoughts. I appreciate all your guys' comments. I think that I prefer the color as well, just because it takes you to, being actually on our beach. With regards to the fishing capital, while that is something that the Tourism Society has maintained kind of as a goal in the past, it may not be exactly where we're going moving forward as well. So I don't know that I'm, again, going to die on the fact that we need to have a fish in this photo specifically. I would be fine with removing it. I actually, as I was staring at it, I'm like, you know what? It feels like it should be a photo of what you view on Devonshire Beach, of Dog Island, and like, you know what I mean? The shoreline, like the classic kind of, look that you get when you're just standing down on Devonshire. But that's just me, and I don't want to give you more work, but that's my feedback anyways. Again, I don't think I'm gonna, be super nitpicky about it. Oh yeah, maybe that's what got me, but I do really appreciate the color of it as well, though. I just think it'll grab a lot better, but I do understand it will wear and tear. So at the end of the day, I trust your judgment.
Counselor Adams.
When you say wear and tear, how long of a lifespan are we talking in color?
I would
Ish.
say 6-7 years.
Okay, cost to replace it?
Just that's
Is it $8? Just
that panel. I don't have the breakdown in front of me, but I would say within $5,000, $7,000.
just for the panel?
Yeah.
Jesus.
And so would you say it's like, we stretch the black and white to 10 years because it's less notable? Like how, or is it like black and white's fading, but it lasts forever?
No, it will still fade.
No, it'll fade, but it looks good faded, right?
Yes, yes.
Counselor Moala wanted to weigh in.
Well, no, I did want to say that it might not be the fishermen, like maybe we could take that out. I love having the sun and the water, and I think that's our number one asset is the lake. So even just replacing that with maybe someone in a canoe or someone on one of those knee boards or whatever. But I could do that instead of the fishing boat, but I think the water definitely has to be there.
How easy is it for you to remove the fisherman? Can you do
Just
that
remove the
tomorrow
fishermen.
morning and we just rock and roll?
Yeah.
Okay, well, you could.
So I think there's significant discussion from council that we would like the removal
Okay.
of the giant fish.
The Marlin.
Sure.
Marlin.
The marlin that is in this picture that we're looking at. I personally really like the color better. I think with the gray and the oh, I'm losing my words, the pavement colors, but that are always very black and gray. It would be nice to have a highlight to downtown with the color. So I'm team
Sure.
colored sign on this. We're gonna do an informal poll. Okay.
I'm impartial. I don't care. Just pick one.
Yay. Okay, so
It is.
it would be that. Right.
Minus the marlin.
Minus the giant fish.
Sure.
So removal of the boat, the fisherman, the fish,
And just leave that shoreline.
Just leave the shoreline, but in color, just the remove, like.
just take the fish, the boat and everything else.
Fish is half the size of the man.
It's a monster. Big fish in that lake.
The fish is half the size of the man in this, so I think
Can't be a small fish. It's gotta be a big one.
I agree
Good
with,
story.
I agree with Councillor Ferguson and Councillor Adams on this. The fish might have to go out of this one. It does reflect all the nature in our region in the other panels, as well as the Northern Lights. Is there any other, what about the benches? You said there's benches and tables coming. What's
So,
that?
yeah, so we, so that's the next part of the
okay.
update is I would like to request some more funding.
Ooh.
So going, like, talking about funding, so a budget of $1.2 million was allocated to this project. 900,000 came from grant allocation, MSP and revitalization grant, and 300,000 was council allocation from reserves. So to date, we had expenditure of 100,000 that went towards building trail connection from Big Fish Bay to 6F, which was also part of this, identifying that we need a connection to downtown for people coming to Big Fish Bay. So like 100,000 went towards the trail construction. Expenditure of 770,000 went towards the resurfacing of plaza west of Main Street, which includes new lights, new trees, boulders, kiosk sign, landscaping, shrubbery, etc. And extra work was also undertaken to complete repaving of section of 3rd Ave Northwest Road between two plazas, just to, previously it was all brick, so we removed the brick and we put a pavement to it, tying the two curb and gutters properly. And then expenditure of 342,000 to date went towards resurfacing of East Walkway. So note that I have 80% because at the time we only had a PPC 3, so which relates to 80% of the quantity being done. The quantity of the resurfacing East Walkway exceeded by 20% due to inaccuracy with quantity takeoff. So we utilize our ArcGIS mapping to calculate the quantities. And at the time when we calculated using the satellite imagery, it was at 800 squares, but the actual is 950, right? So there is quantity discrepancies there, so we had to pay extra. And it also includes extra work undertaken for 7 trees replacement, which was not originally accounted for, but then it was determined that it would be best to remove the trees. And there was a section where it required some deep base repair. So totaling up to date, we have spent like $1.212 million, which relates to $12,000 over our budget. So we are proposing additional budget request to complete the remaining portion of the scope. Note that 3rd Street Southwest is approx 400,000 under budget, so which would require less transfers from reserve than originally anticipated. So Finance Department confirmed that additional budget requests can be funded from road reserve for downtown revitalization. Administration is requesting additional 200,000 to complete the remaining portion of the work, including finishing off the 20%. I mean, like we have to pay off the 20% of the work done on East Walkway, ordering an installation of site furniture and fabricating and installing the art sign.
So the short version is that 3rd Street Southwest was 400K under budget.
Yes.
And finance is saying that we can reallocate some of that in order to finish this.
Yes, so it won't be the same funds, but so because Roland was pulling out of water and wastewater reserve because we had water line like utilities replacement. So he said that he's anticipating a transfer of 400,000 less. So he said that we can pull from some other reserves, right? So overall, the bottom line will still be the same.
Sounds fair.
Any questions? Okay. Next, traffic intersection study. So this was, the study is already completed. A report was presented to council earlier this year, outlining the finding and option to improve the traffic safety and traffic flow during peak hours. And then we will propose some project during this upcoming budget sessions. Road assessment is currently progressing. We are in final stages of data collection. The intent is to revise 10-year capital plan focusing to prioritize repairs for the aging road infrastructure. A report will be presented to council in future council meeting once data analysis is complete.
So that one's gonna come back to capital budgeting for the 10-year road plan and here or,
It will come in as a council report. Next, drainage master plan update. The project is currently in final stages of data analysis. The project includes updating the existing drainage master plan. A drainage master plan provides review of existing and future stormwater servicing needs, including assessing existing stormwater drainage system and identifying upgrades to mitigate any issues. Water treatment plant office, it's in the final stage of building a conceptual plan. Based on the conceptual plan, tender documents will be created to seek contractor proposal for renovating the administration space. 8th Street Northwest, the project is currently in evaluation stage post tender closing. A report will be presented to council in the upcoming weeks. PLC programming, it's currently progressing. We are expecting to be complete before end of this year, and we are expecting to be complete on budget. Heating and cooling solution for new blower building, that project is complete on time and it is under budget. The existing HVAC unit underwent upgrade to include cooling coils to aid in extreme hot weathers. Effluent reports, the project is currently in final stage. Last year, Alberta Environment and Park requested town to continue monitoring effluent quality until end of September 2023. So since last year, we have been doing additional data collection and we will be providing a final report to Alberta Environment and Parks to get their approval of continue operating our lagoons as it is. Sorry's lift station line twinning. The project has been progressing since early this spring. The installation of force main to twin the existing force main line is all complete. The programming of new flow meter post installation of the line is also complete. The only scope left is to upgrade the impellers of the existing pump to improve pump efficiencies. So required material has been ordered and is expected to arrive by mid-October this year. So all the remaining work is expected to be complete by mid-November. And the project is expected to be complete under budget. Water treatment plant force main to E-lift. The installation of force main is currently progressing. The new dedicated force main for the water treatment plant will free up conveyance capacity within the gravity sewer system for future expansion of industrial zones. The project is expected to complete on budget. Sewer network expansion, council already heard a report, will be progressing with the construction soon. MRC roof refurbishment, the work is currently progressing. 1 out of 3 identified area is complete. Project is expected to complete by end of September. And the project is also forecasted to be complete on or under budget. MRC concession wall repairs. So the work to complete the repair on concession wall is all complete. The project was undertaken while Susan's Kitchen was on scheduled break. The work was all complete on time and under budget, as it was identified that only a portion of wall from the bottom of roof deck to door jamb required repair instead of majority of the wall as originally anticipated. Slip storage shed, construction of slip storage shed is all complete. The ribbon cutting ceremony was concluded last week. The project was completed on time and right on budget. Hilldiban Park playground, installation of new playground structure, including the installation of engineered wood fiber over the play surface is all complete. Administration was able to secure a discount of 88,000 in form of grant/discount on the playground equipment installed. Hilldiban Park tennis court resurfacing. The work is all complete. The project successfully upgraded the existing courts to include multi-sport system, allowing pickleball and tennis games on the same surface. Budget also allowed for installation of windbreaker on the existing perimeter chain link fence. Hilldiban Park covered shelter gazebo. So the fabrication work for the metal structure of the gazebo is in the work. The installation of support structure, that is screw piles, is expected to be complete in the next couple of weeks. And the installation of gazebo is expected to be complete by mid-October. The Liban Park washroom unit, the installation of washroom unit was complete early spring this year before opening the splash park to public. The project completed on time, but ended up going over budget by 4,000 due to increase in pricing of washroom unit and additional work required to do the site prep. Spray park controller, the upgrade to the old spray park located in Shooter Park is all complete. The existing controller upgrade included new solenoid valve assembly along with piping head inside the controller box. The controller PLC is currently working but obsolete. Future upgrade would require complete refurbishment of the old spray park. EV charger at MRC. So the installation of EV charger is all complete. Unit is operational since July. The project is fully funded by Municipal Climate Change Action Center, and administration is working with grant administrators seeking full reimbursement of post installation. Poplar Park half-size basketball court installation of court is complete. Project completed later than anticipated due to surface deficiency, but it was completed within the allotted budget. Barton Park pump track, the installation of new pump track is all complete. Project completed on time and within the allotted budget. Server migration, the server migration project is progressing towards completion. The project focusing on replacing existing server hardware with new servers capable of increased storage capacity. The project scope is anticipated to finish under budget with surplus of 20,000 or less, which segues into the next new budget request. So administration would like to propose new budget request to replace 30 desktop phones in the office with new version as the existing versions are no longer supported. The estimated cost to replace existing with new 6900 series hardware is $17,350. Administration is requesting budget reallocation of 20,000 surplus from server migration project to fund the replacement of new desktop phone hardware. Next is a new budget request as well for future RCMP detachment. So administration would like to request budget to undertake site exploration task for future RCMP detachment. A preliminary budget amount of 50,000 is requested to cover expenses related to environmental site assessment of the proposed site. And if the proposed site is acceptable for development, then consultant will be engaged to begin conceptual plan development. Requested budget of 50,000 can be funded from capital building reserves to undertake such tasks. Next is community services, which is also new budget ask. Administration would like budget request of 25,000 for exploration of potential facility improvements under community services. The requested budget can be funded from unrestricted surplus reserve. Any surplus budget amounts on capital projects will be put back in the respective reserves or funding source. Administration recommends the council with following: to accept the report as information. Second, to accept administration proposal to allocate 200,000 from road reserve to complete the remaining scope of downtown revitalization project. Next, to accept administration proposal to reallocate 20,000 surplus from server migration project to fund the desktop phone replacement. Accept new budget request of 50,000 to be funded from capital building reserve for future RCMP detachment site exploration and preliminary design. And to accept new budget request of 25,000 to be funded from unrestricted surplus reserve for community services potential facility improvements.
Okay, what a capital project year.
Yeah,
Nicely done.
thank you.
That spanned a lot of different projects. I'll open up the floor to questions or motions from council. Councilor Ferguson.
Along the same vein as what Mayor Ward said, the first thing I noticed that we've done a lot in such a short time. So congratulations and much thanks to administration and the team. So it is appreciated. I do have some comments here. So how imperative is it that we decide on the capital items right now? So we're pretty close to budget time, so can it wait till then? So I always like to see the big picture before I make decisions about, there's roughly about $300,000 of requested expenditures here. So I like to see the big picture before I make that decision.
So for downtown revitalization, at least you can approve that so that we can get started with the remaining portion of the work. We also have to would have to pay the contractor for the last progress, which would be a part of this 200,000 as well. So I would suggest to go with downtown, and for the RCMP and the RCMP, we need to provide some sort of like updated environmental site assessment to RCMP so that they can make a decision if the site would be suitable or not. As we provided one from 2016, but they felt that is an outdated report. So we just need to update the report and hand it over to them.
So what I'm gathering from this is all of these, so while it is sort of an additional funding request, you basically shuffled things around from where we've had budget savings in other
Yes.
areas to accomplish these.
Yeah, absolutely. And I would add that some of these are time sensitive as well. We've got, first of all, the first point, like you mentioned, Mayor, were that these have already been budgeted for and accounted for in part of our 2023 capital budget. So they're not necessarily new funding. And there was, as you can see, a number of projects, the vast majority of them actually came in our budget, and their savings. There is, although I don't think we totaled it up, there is going to be obviously contributions back to
over this,
reserves. That's
yes.
right, as a result of it. And so administration's recognizing that some of these projects, we've been given priorities for council to move ahead and to look at some of these. So some of these items are giving us the ability to do such things, to move, whether it's the RCMP detachment or the completion of the downtown revitalization, while we still have some construction season left to finish. So we would highly hope that council would support administration in completing some of the initiatives that were put before us by council.
I guess further along that vein, so I'm not convinced though that proceeding with the RCMP detachment at this time is also in the best interest. Given the indications from the federal government and news sources stating that the RCMP is potentially in for a major change. Looks like they kind of want to get out of being a national police force. Also, there's mixed messaging from our provincial government about the future of policing as well. So I don't know if I'm willing to go down that road at this time. Maybe it's something that we revisit in a year and see if there's been any movement on it, but I'm just not certain that is the best use of funds at this time.
I was kind of thinking along the same lines, actually. Can't believe I've seen that 3 times in one night, Bryce. For the RCMP piece, I know it's something we're looking into and something we want to progress on. I don't know if it's the same lines as what I heard from the federal. I hadn't heard the provincial piece yet. Has me concerned as well as how that funding's going, also what the lease agreement is going to look like, which I am blown away how it works. I think we should wait for more debate on that one. The desktop phone replacement, is this something that is necessary right away, or is this something you're just kind of tying in because we got the 20,000 surplus to?
Yeah, it's
work with
definitely
it,
going to be,
or it
it
needs
was
to
going to be an
happen?
item that was going to come forward. I know we have the phone system, we have a voice over internet phone system. The phones are no longer even being supported as kind of indicated in Cush's report there. So this was just an opportunity to fix a problem based on some savings that we had. It's actually kind of tied to the server migration because the server actually manages that number of systems, but the phone system is also on this server. So it's actually kind of, there's a connection to it. And this was just an opportunity for us to, we just can't service the phones that we have existing. So
Yeah,
there
the
was an opportunity
RCMP
for
one is
savings.
really the only one I have a hard time wrapping my head around right now.
I was just gonna say, why don't we make one motion at a time out of the 5 of them and hash out what we love and hate then? Right? We could make,
Yeah,
these are 5 separate motions, right?
That's correct.
Let's do it that way rather than bounce all over. So
I'm ready to.
I will say, let's move that council accepts this report as information.
Any further discussion? Call the question, those in favor, and that is carried. Councilor Graham.
Move that council accepts the administration's proposal to allocate 200K from road reserve to complete the remaining scope of downtown revitalization project.
Motion on the floor. Do we have any further discussion on the downtown revitalization project? All right, call the question, those in favor, and that is carried. Councilor Graham.
Okay. Move that council accepts the administration's proposal to reallocate 20K surplus from server migration project to fund the desktop phone replacement.
Motion on the floor. Any further discussion on desktop phone replacement? Wait, call to question, those in favor? All those opposed? And that is carried. Counselor Hughes.
I move that council accepts new budget request of 25,000 from unrestricted surplus reserves for community services facility improvements.
Okay, for the community service. Okay, any further discussion on the community facility service improvements? All question is in favor. And that is carried. Counselor Adams.
Move that council accepts new budget request of $50,000 from capital building reserves for future RCMP detachment site exploration preliminary design tasks.
So I think this is the one with most topics, so there'll be some discussion here. We did tour a variety of RCMP detachments across the province. Basically right from high level down to Cochrane. I wasn't really sure of the state of our existing RCMP detachment until I toured others. And realized the needs of our police services have far surpassed the building that they are in. Complete lack of storage, complete lack of, when you have major crimes or things like that come in, there is no space for conferencing and other areas have to be rented out. And I think the point is, I do agree that the federal government, the provincial government, the status of the RCMP may be up in the air. But I don't think the fact that we are going to need a new police facility, regardless of who that provider is going to be up in the air. That's something that's going to need to be considered during the remainder of this term and the next one, just because it is aging and it does affect the quality of the police work we receive, as well as the quality of and the recruitment and retention of officers. And that will be regardless of what funding model or service provider that's under, in my opinion. Counselor Adams.
I'm not disputing that at all. I agree with you on that, 100%. We do need a new facility. It's, we're outgrowing this one. We need more resources here. The part that I'm struggling with is not having the $50,000. Why aren't we waiting till budget? Is there a timeline that we need to have this now over spring?
Yeah, so I can speak to that. So the stage that we're at right now is we're exploring some potential town sites. We're exploring the feasibility if we could, we're exploring the feasibility of a new detachment potentially on the fire hall site, whether that's connected to our existing building as a joint services sort of potential project, like a shared sort of connected sort of business or model, or a separate standalone building on that property. So we've had some initial discussions on that, and we've had some discussions with K Division as it relates to that property. The stage that we're at right now is because of the use of that property and as a fire training facility and potential carcinogens and different things that have maybe been used on the site or not site. They're asking us to do an updated environmental study on the potential locations of a building there. And so we're at the stage where we need to update our environmental on that location. Without this budget allocation, we don't really have a budget allocated for any further expenditures as it relates to that project. So we're asking to start putting a small amount of money towards this project to allow administration to at least start to look in the box and work things through. I mean, obviously, there's going to be a lot of opportunity for council to be involved in a capital expenditure of that size. Doesn't just happen automatically from a $50,000 request today. But it allows us to even get past this first hurdle. If we don't, the discussion kind of stops. If we can't provide an environmental assessment or confirm that this location could be suitable or this location is not suitable, we don't really have any indication of that until we update the environmental. And to update the environmental, we need to have a budget allocated to this project. Yes, you could postpone, but then there is no further discussions on our stage. There's nothing more that we can do at this stage without that environmental.
Would a maximum delay of 3 weeks really screw you up?
Of 3 weeks.
If we delayed this 3 weeks until we had AM and I know they're just starting meetings with Parliamentary Secretary Sinclair, what a title. And some Indigenous policing stuff with Treaty 8. that might work with municipalities and stuff, and they literally just had their first meeting today and trying to find some yin and yangs where they work together. Would 3 weeks really hinder you? I'm gonna assume we're paying this no matter what, but if we waited 3 weeks and got a little bit direction of what the province is doing in this region, it
No,
might.
it just delays by 3 weeks. I mean, I think as Mayor Ward said, regardless of the model or the location, I mean, this is one of our locations regardless of who's paying for it or what color the stripe is on the uniform.
Well, not if it's indigenous policing and it's possibly on
I
a
guess
First Nation,
that's-
but I don't know what was said. I'm just saying there's opportunities that might be coming up that we might save $50,000 if we waited 3 weeks.
And we're not saying that necessarily that the first step here is a $50,000 step. We're just asking to allocate
Yeah.
a budget in there. I mean, in reality, the environmental what are your estimates, Push?
It was just under 3,000.
Like, we're not talking a huge amount of money here, but we're just asking to put something in the pot
Thank you.
so we can work towards. Unless you want us to come back every $3,000 that we're looking. to
No. I just. Giving info.
And, oh, Councilor Hughes.
Is the environmental going to be completed this year?
Yep.
Yeah.
It would be completed right away?
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay.
Any further discussion? Councilor Adams.
So you're saying $3,000 for the environmental?
Yep.
So no core samples?
Sorry?
They're not
No, so
asking for
basically what
course?
they're doing is they're updating, you already have data up to 2016, right? So
Right.
they're just filling up the gaps between 2016 to 2023. Yeah, so it's only like 7 years.
So why the 50? We're just allocating a base amount in there to have something to start with, right?
To look
Like I
in the
said,
box, like you
There
said.
could be next, there could be, if we wish, if we wanted to start looking at design or engaging, price estimates or whatever the case is, the
And
next
that's
step-
not something you're gonna be doing anyways before. Next year.
Potentially not.
But possibly this environmental, anything you want to put there at one point, we should have an environmental.
I think that's his point, is that no matter if we are gonna use the fire hall, any portion of that facility, an environmental study has to be done regardless of any model.
I could get behind that.
But they are only good for a certain time span, correct?
We have to
They're not?
catch up. The last one was 2016, so then now you have to catch up 2016 to 2023. So you have to, every so long, you have to catch it up.
Anything else happens to that space or that land, there's no other use, there's no other activities.
So
And just
sometimes like RCMP was just not comfortable to make just a assumption that the site was, because when
Okay,
when we purchased, since then the land use have changed, right? Because we added the training center and stuff. So that's why they were like, it would be worth it to see a recent environment assessment.
so it's tied to change in use.
Yes.
Okay, okay, tied to change of use. Okay. Okay, any further discussion? The motion, nope, shutting it off. There is the motion on the floor to the request for the capital budgeting reserves for future RCMP detachment site exploration. Call to question, those in favor? Those opposed? And that is carried. Thank you, Kush.
Thank
That
you.
was a heck of a report.
Thank you.
Do we have a break?
And if we can call a 10-minute break, please, before we get into the CAO update.
And we're live.
Excellent. So before you have a copy of my CAO report for September 2023. As per normal, I'm just going to highlight some of the more interesting parts as we go through. Under our corporate services communications branch, the replacement of the outdoor digital signs was successfully completed between August 23rd and 25th, and these signs are currently operating without issue. Communications will be sent out in September to inform about the installation of the new signs and our advertising campaign relating to them. Stay tuned for that. Under economic development, our rural renewal stream portal update. So the program's approved 24 employers, an increase of 3 from the previous month. A total of 38 letters of endorsement have issued to candidates, marking a significant increase of 12 from the previous month. Jason spoke about our industrial land and market and fiscal impact analysis of the projects currently underway. Under our tourism, or actually under the home Housing Accelerator Fund, an application was submitted in August requesting for grant application of approximately 2.5 million. So we're still waiting the outcome of that application. Under our advertising, additional advertising clients have been added to the MRC Arena 1 for the upcoming season. Ball Diamond advertising was transferred to the Economic Development Department in early August. And there's a need to integrate its processes and procedures into the existing commercial advertising policy and associated bylaws. So that'll be likely coming back. Under recruitment, currently accepting applications for the MRC operator, a public works position, and junior lifeguards, aquatic instructors. Under IT, the contract for the implementation of Town Suite has been executed and the project is set to commence this month. The IT department has initiated the development of comprehensive enterprise-wide technical documentation aiming to establish robust IT architecture and process documentation. And the server migration is currently underway with the successful migration of the Mitel system. So that's the phone system we talked about earlier. The next phase of the migration will involve the finance applications, which actually was completed last week. So everything went over good. So that was good. Under finance, all information materials have been sent to the provincial auditor for assessment audit. We're now awaiting the results. We're working already on our budget preparations for 2024. And the interim audit has been scheduled for November 22nd and 23rd. Under our operations branch, utilities continues to work on the E-Lift force main project kickoff, meter manhole piping repair at the tanker base and hydrant flushing. Public Works is working on completing the installation of the new speed limit signs in town, grading regular maintenance out at the recycle depot, and still waiting for locates for ditching projects. So reestablishing ditch maintenance. Under the projects department, I am not going to go through any of these because I think Kush nailed them all. Planning and development met with Third Space Planning to kick off the start of the project of the short-term rentals. Consultant is currently working on gathering background information and administration is working on a stakeholder list. They're also working on a report regarding Sunset Place and potential development options for council to come back and conducting follow-up calls to land owners with respect to open development permits. Fire department had a total of 64 calls for the month of August. They started a new recruitment campaign starting in August of 2023. And their updates as it relates to their station, a member volunteer base. So station 1 with 37 members, station 2 with 7, station 3 with 10, station 4 with 12, station 5 with 0, and station 6 search and rescue members of 2. Enforcement division or bylaw CPO division, August stats, they had 22 calls for service, issued 7 traffic tickets, 2 warnings, 1 bylaw ticket. Year to date, they're at 365 for calls for service. And I will leave the rest for any other questions.
Councillor Adams?
Excuse me, just off the top of your head on that EV charger, I know we're bringing money in. Do we know if we're losing, gaining, like as far as net work or net
In
cost?
terms of costs or money or in terms of usage?
In terms of cost?
I don't think I have those numbers in terms of costs as to.
Yeah, I didn't think
mean,
you would yet.
We weren't
Lower.
anticipating making money on that on the one.
But it was being used a heck of a lot.
But I can
more.
tell you it's being used a ridiculous amount. So we had estimated approximately 300 kilowatt hours per month. And that was kind of a medium sort of projection over 2 months of use. So from the time that it was flipped till, let's say, September 7th, I believe we were at about 4 or 5 times that estimate. So instead of 600 kilowatt hours in 2 months, I think we were closer to 14 or 1500. So it's blowing a lot of our projections out that we
So
thought.
are we gathering data from that as well, as far as where these people are from, like location data?
No, it
postal
won't,
code
it won't,
entries,
yeah,
like
no, it
that?
won't provide that information, but what, and I don't know if it's actually included in this. I thought I had included it here. Just give me a second. Push is reporting on some of that information. Yeah, so under project, sorry, Kush did report. So EV chargers getting more than estimated use. The energy provided from August 8th to the 7th of September was 744 kilowatt hours. The revenue generated was 264. Total EV connection time to the charger was about 13 hours, 12 minutes. A total of 29 unique users have used this charger since commissioning in July. And they're also getting significant positive feedback on some of the
I guess what I
websites.
was after is whether or not they're out of town users or in town.
Yeah, it's unfortunately, we don't have that information isn't captured. What we can capture though is the number of unique users. So some users are multiple users, so maybe they're in town or they're commuting from town, or somehow town gets into that sort of regular routine. So you do see repeat customers, but you are seeing a lot of unique ones. So everyone has a unique kind of account number, if you will. So we're able to determine how many new or individual sort of over the lifespan of the project. And we've had 29 different EVs approach or come to the town to charge their vehicle here. So
I guess my other comment was the signs. I noticed them right away after you put them up. They're so much clearer. I can actually read them. It's great. That's great. They look great. Without glasses, I can even read them. That's impressive. I guess the other piece I was wondering just offhand was, sorry, I'll wrap up and then I'm done. One more. Town Suite. Does it have, and this is more of a personal side here, does it have a council meeting piece to it or not?
I believe not, no.
All right, good enough. I'm done.
Councilor Hughes.
I just had a question about the EV charger as well. It was kind of along the lines of what he asked, but also to satisfy my curiosity. When we put it in, are we like advertising somewhere, Jason, or like, how does that work? Is there like some overarching place that people go to get a listing of chargers?
Yeah, so this particular charger is part of the Flow network. So you can simply go online and go to the Flow network map and it shows the complete map. Ditto for the Tesla superchargers. It's all specific.
Okay, so that's what I don't own that vehicle, so, but that's
It's on
what
a
people
couple.
do.
Yeah, it's on a couple. Yeah.
Okay.
And it's easily searchable.
So what about if they Google searched it? What if they're Googling like, does the town of Slave Lake have a charger? Is there a charger? Like that's all coming up there?
Yeah, absolutely. So if you clicked on like PlugShare, for example, and you searched on Slave Lake,
Mhm.
you would actually see, you would see our charger there, but you would also see there's a few other chargers,
Yeah,
slower chargers like Ford and
I believe Dodge has one as well.
Dodge might be on there as well, or Whitecap as well. Like, so people, as they start to implement these things or start to install them and become public, they get registered on some of these common registries. And then if you own an EV, this is where you're looking. And so you're looking to plan where your next fill up is going to be, right? Your
Councilor
next
Adams
charge
uh,
said
up.
it's also on Google Maps.
There you go.
Yeah, I just did a Google search and Joe, you'll be happy to report the Lakeside Leader article comes up first. So.
Oh, there you go. Spotlight on the Lakeside Leader.
Yeah, it's key that information that these exist is out there, right?
Yes, yeah.
And it's clearly out there on multiple different platforms and it's being shared. It's being included on
Yeah,
local Facebook groups and, that have an interest. So
awesome.
word is traveling. We've even had comments where people have said they came here specifically because we had a charger.
Okay,
So they came to the community
that's great.
to visit, to see, to tour, to whatever else, to buy, to have a restaurant meal, whatever the
Yeah.
case may be.
Well, I think when
um,
the opportunity presented itself for us to get the grant, that was my hope that would be, a tool we could use for attracting new people, obviously a tourism perspective as well. So it's just really nice to see that it's working. And I was just curious if we can, attribute that to a certain thing, marketing wise, et cetera. So that's good to know. Thank you.
I was just gonna ask a question, not based on, well, it is based on this. I was just wondering on future CAO updates, if we can get for fire and bylaw where there's call volumes, if we can just get the same comparative to the previous year.
Yeah, I can
Because
ask.
the call volumes in isolation don't really mean a ton to me without comparative to the prior year.
For sure. Yeah.
Thank you. Anything further?
I just want to commend the town on a lot of the recreation and the programming that was done this summer. I think especially the playground activity program, I think that was a really good idea for, a lot of our youth to be able to go to Hilda Eben, to be kind of supervised and also get that two-pronged approach with having someone kind of be there as a supervisor, watching over kind of, making sure people are, not vandalizing anything or not wrecking anything. So I like that program and I'd like to see it again next year.
Councillor Hughes.
I will make a motion to accept the CAO update for information.
Any further discussion? Call to question, those in favor, and that is carried. Management task list.
So again, before you, you have an update for the management task list. I think you're also provided electronically if you like to sort it in a different manner than we're presenting. Some have been updated. I don't know if you have any questions regarding any of the outstanding items.
Councillor Adams.
I just something that I would like to see on here. I know we're taking it off was the piece on the Truth and Reconciliation of where we're at. Can we schedule that again for another update in June? I was thinking around the June 11th Committee of the Whole meeting, and the reason for that is it's close to the June 21st, and we can see where we're at and how we're moving forward.
For administration to provide or bring back an update for that day.
Yeah.
So you probably need to, I would suggest maybe you make a unique motion just so we can recapture the new request
I
or the
will
new.
make that motion that I just said.
Motion on the floor to have an
Sorry,
update on the truth
Truth and
and
Reconciliation status.
status by the town at the June 11th Committee of the Whole.
Yeah.
As opposed to an annual.
Oh.
Any
If
further?
I can just
discussion?
weigh in on that. Next year is the 150th anniversary of Treaty 8. And the Sawridge First Nation has already reached out to us and they want to partner for that day. So you can expect that that will be a major component next year.
What date? Is there a specific date for that or?
I would have to Google it, but it's in June again.
Okay, so there is a motion on the floor. Any further discussion on that motion? Yep.
Is that an early enough timeline to accommodate what you might need from us or planning or anything then?
That'd be different.
Oh, that'd be different.
I think they're looking at scheduling an event. Councillor Adams is just requesting an update on or how.
Where we're at
Where we're
with
at
the-
with regards to the action.
Okay,
item.
yes, yeah, apologies. Yep, just clarify.
Okay, I will call to question those in favor. And that is carried. Anything further? Yes. Anything further on the task list?
After the report itself.
Yes. Councillor Adams,
Motion to accept the task list for September 2023 as information.
call to question those in favor. And that is carried. Anything for question period? That was mostly what the CAO update and management task list, so I am going to, Councillor Moalen.
I think I asked about this probably last month. I didn't really get an update. But someone had told me that in previous years, certain teams or certain special people, when something special happened, they were able to come through council almost, I don't know if it's as a delegation or something, but just to get a little bit extra recognition for their accomplishments. And I don't know if I've seen an update on that.
Is it not on the website?
Oh, is it?
I
Yeah,
believe- I believe that was the answer.
I know
that
we
got
have-
last time.
we have done something from administration. I just can't remember the exact response.
It's on the website and they can go, but it would have to be highlighting, maybe communications highlighting that is an option.
Yeah,
I
I
know
mean, there
Harry-
is,
I know
yeah, so any
Harry was
group,
a big
it's
Harry
just
Butler.
difficult for administration to handpick those, not necessarily being involved in those sports teams or activities, but I think
Here it is.
we can,
It was the same way. Yep. So basically, if you had a sports team or something that had, and you wanted it to nominate them, and then they would come to council, it is on the website. And I know that Harry Bartlett was a big proponent of that.
Yeah.
But we just need to maybe highlight
Yep, we
somewhere.
can highlight it. So it's on the website. It's called the Community Recognition Program under our Form Center. And there's 6 different categories: arts and culture, distinguished achievement, professional achievement, community supporter, environmental stewardship, and sports excellence. And there's forms for each of those.
Yeah, maybe can we push that maybe through social media a little bit and let people know about that?
Counselor Gramlich?
This last term, a lot of that was council driven. You have a connection to a team or a sport, or Council McGregor loved the Arctic Winter Games, and she would round up the 12 athletes that they would apply as through the same avenue, but we kind of, you know, hey, you just won provincials. Why don't you come to council, apply on this? We'll recognize the whole team. So as counselors, feel free to do that ourselves, because I don't think anyone's Googling, how can I get a pin of the town of Slave Lake in front of council? So like invite people if you want, kind of thing.
We may also need to order pins with.
Or something.
Anything further? Did we make the motion to accept his information? Oh, it's from question period. Never mind. I
Right,
thought we were on
question period.
management task list. Question period. Okay, committee minutes. Slave Lake Regional Tourism.
Okay, so just pulling this up here. Okay, so we are back at it with our monthly meeting tomorrow, but I do have a few updates for everybody. So we've just been working on our marketing efforts for the Slave Lake region with that We Love Local grant that we were able to secure with Stingray Radio. So now that we are done marketing Beach Fest on that, we will just be doing some general tourism marketing, trying to draw people to the area just in general to come and visit and experience what we have to offer in the region. We launched a local photo contest the past few weeks to help us gather a gallery of photos from all different types of seasons for us to use on our website and other marketing future plans. And this was very well received. Looking to team up with the Indigenous Tourism Alberta to offer a cultural awareness training here within our region. Hopefully more details to come soon, but an exciting opportunity for us there. We'll be holding a fall operators meeting on October 11th here in Slave Lake with our partners at Travel Alberta. Again, this is similar to what we did in the spring. It'll just essentially be a great opportunity for tourism operators to come and network with all the regional partners and tourism businesses in the area, talk about, you know, the summer experience that they had, start identifying, you know, gaps in the market and those types of things, and kind of take the conversation to the next level, which we are now able to do. So really looking forward to the fall operators meeting. And then just one other update, we have a possible lead that we're working on to secure some grant funding from the Northwestern Alberta Foundation. Hopefully we will have good news to share with this very soon. We're also looking at a fall intake for some other grant opportunities that are available for us from Travel Alberta. And that's your update.
CRC.
Okay, so just post notes. So we did apply for some funding, and we are waiting to hear back from the province on some funding extensions. Our office in High Prairie has become a little bit cluttered, so we are looking at doing a garage sale to get rid of some of the excess material in the office. Applied for a Slave Lake TSF grant. We're having a meeting to look at our bylaws in the next, actually it might be happening next week. We're gonna go over our bylaws. There is talk about doing a feasibility study on a daycare in High Prairie. We have a new staff member in Slave Lake. And I think that's it.
Counselor Hughes.
Any talks of a feasibility study for a daycare in Slave Lake?
I think there would be.
Okay.
Counselor Adams.
This falls under. I struggle with this being a regional funded project, and we're funding in one specific area. And significant funding, like that's not cheap. That's going to take up a lot of that time and a lot of that funding. How is that being addressed as far as?
Well, I think we are having those discussions right now with, you know, what we're getting out of being on this group. You know, I think me as a new counselor, maybe I do have to have a little bit louder voice, I think, on this board. I think you will see some maybe more discussions in the upcoming weeks. So just kind of keep your ear to the ground.
MPC.
We met last night and we approved a variance on 2 driveways.
Yeah.
And the next one is the Wildfire Legacy Corporation meeting. We met yesterday. We had a presentation by Stage North. They just highlighted that they have started in 2011 and they're a purely volunteer base. And then they indicated some of the changes that they've made to the Legacy Center over the last year. They've upgraded computer programming of the light board as well as went through 3 phases of lighting enhancements so that there is lighting adjustments to the podium and there's lighting adjustments to the house lights, a lot of stuff that you don't really think matters until you actually can see. We had a demonstration of the various lighting upgrades. So a huge thank you to Stage North and their funders for getting that through and improving the usage of our facility. And they also made a request for a banner to advertise the season that was approved. So it advertises their season and that'll hang in the Legacy Center. And that is it. We'll get a motion to accept the reports as information. Counselor Hughes.
Motion to accept the committee of the whole minute reports as information.
Thank you. Call to question, those in favor. And that is carried. Okay, State of the Lake. So there's a few things that happen or are happening in the next week. So we had on the weekend, the 2nd annual Art in the Park from the Lesser Slave Lake Regional Arts Council. It was very well attended and was a great event in Schurter Park. They had food vendors and entertainment and exercise classes. Also at that was the grand opening of the Rotary Gazebo in Schurter Park. A huge thank you to Carwold Ready Mix for their cement and gravel donation and to the late Roy Evans for his generous donation as well. He didn't love recognition, but as the Rotary Club's president said in her speech, that this was a wonderful way to honor him. And she asked forgiveness for doing that, to bringing attention to Roy and his family. But it was a huge, it's actually quite a fantastic addition to the park, as well as for shade in that area. And just a congratulations again to the Rotary Club for celebrating 25 years. Also this weekend, there was the parade of programs put on by the Slave Lake and Area Mental Health Network. They had over 50 organizations highlighting things to do in Slave Lake, volunteer opportunities, and support services in and around our region. Continuing on, next Friday, the Slave Lake and District Chamber of Commerce is hosting Ryan Jesperson. He will be up. He's a political podcaster based out of Edmonton, and he's going to be up talking about the state of our region with regards to our resource-based economy, as well as basically what it looks like for rural politics since the election. So that event again is a free event. It's doors open at 6 and he'll be on at 7. So that's at the Legacy Center next Friday, September 22nd. And the bar is also available during that time for purchase. One more, the Terry Fox Run registration. The Terry Fox Run is this Sunday. Registration is at 12:30 p.m. at Schurter Park. You can register online at terryfox.org as well, or contact Arlene Gramiak. Run participation is free, but participants are asked to get pledges or donate some money to the cause. Counselor Hughes.
Yeah, I just had a last minute addition I thought of. I just wanted to mention Councillor Moellem and myself were able to attend the ribbon cutting ceremony for the slip shed, and that was really great. I just wanted to say thank you for everything that got done by administration towards that goal. And a big thank you to all those volunteers, all of the guys that get in when it's freezing cold and go and Zamboni the ice. We're all there. And I think they really enjoyed, a little bit of a fellowship with them. And it was just a great way to kind of recognize the spirit of volunteerism that does exist in the community and reward that in a great way as well. And I just want to give them a little shout out too and say thanks for all they do.
Counselor Moellem.
I definitely want to give a little bit of credit to Darcy Como and our FCSS department as well. They hosted a Northwest regional retreat on last Friday, where we saw 50 or well, maybe closer to 60 people from, I'm going to list them: Grand Prairie and Grand Prairie County, Beaver Lodge, Manning, North Sunrise County, Big Lakes County, Smoky River, MD17, Nampa, St. Isidore, Greenview, and Central Peace region, who were all spent 2 days here, and I was lucky enough to meet some of them as well. So,
Counselor Hughes.
Motion to adjourn.
All question, those in favor. And that is carried.